Greetings, kids. Welcome to Let Me Tell You What I Know, a podcast by the Real Nubian on Twitter, where I talk about music, politics, pop culture, and whatever the hell I want. Basically giving you my 2 cents that nobody asked for. Welcome to episode 3. First order of business. This is a redo of the last episode I uploaded a few weeks ago to the SoundCloud channel. But I had to private after a few days because I got very insecure about my performance. I had a few good ideas, but I was exhausted from moving and had a bit of a sinus infection where you could hear all my sniffling that I couldn't edit out at the time. And now that we have mentioned not being able to edit out my audio clips before, I have decided to upgrade my podcast game from recording on my phone in one take. Let's be honest. They are 3 million takes where I have to repeat the entire track every time from start to finish into getting a microphone. And this is a nod to my good buddy on Twitter, the Sarcastic Sloth. By the way, he has a great YouTube channel. You should check him out. And his fancy ways. And I went to Google to figure out the best audio editing software for my MacBook that I can get for free. So here we are recording on a microphone using the Audacity software where I can remove background noises and cut out lags and ums and ahs, etc. So Saya, I hope you are proud of me. I also decided to upload the episodes on YouTube for easier access to many people who are not fans of SoundCloud, which meant that I had to teach myself how to create my simple videos in the easiest way possible, which turned out to be the iMovie application. And many of you podcasting and YouTubing experts would laugh at what I am saying right now. But to be honest with you, I am severely technologically challenged. I can barely use my iPhone to get by in life. And now that we got my excuses out of the way, time to start today's content. We, as in my daughter and myself, are already settled in our new house, and my kid, who is going to turn 4 in a week, is slowly but surely adjusting to the new house and new school. She started kindergarten 2 weeks ago, and unlike what I expected, the first day of school went well. Because of COVID-19, the pandemic, etc., they cannot go on every day, which is slowing down the adjustment period. But it is the best that we can do at the moment. The school assured us that they are doing their best to ensure social distancing and sanitation guidelines. But let's be truthful here. Can we really trust 4-year-olds to comply with this? I feel like they're being too optimistic for their own good. Also, the COVIDiots are everywhere. So here's to hoping that everything goes well, but I'm not holding my breath on that. I was half watching the first episode of Ratched on Netflix while preparing for this episode. And you guys, is everyone excited? Is everyone as excited as I am? I lost my shit when I saw the advertisement on Twitter a couple of weeks ago. The backstory of the manipulative, sadistic, cold-hearted nurse from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest? Epic. It left me with more questions than answers because I was probably half watching. But I will watch it again for sure. And Ryan Murphy, I have to admit, begrudgingly, is the great storyteller. Sarah Paulson is of course a queen, but I am excited about the other cast members. Cynthia Nixon, John Briones from The Assassination of Gianni Versace and Apocalypse season of American Horror Story, Finn Wittrock from American Horror Story Freak Show, the great Judy Davis, Vincent D'Onofrio. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, but he's a king. It's a stellar cast, and I can't wait to finish the rest of the season this weekend. Hopefully I can do it this weekend for sure. Okay, second order of business. What am I going to talk about today? First, let me rehash the privated episode topics out of the way, because I really feel guilty about privating the episode and deleting it. And I thought I had a few good ideas, but my performance was lackluster to me. And people are telling me that I was hard on myself, but I prefer to just be satisfied with what I produce to people. So anyway, the first thing I talked about was the loss of Chadwick Boseman, which happened on the 29th of August. We woke up to the news while we were packing up to move, and he passed away from complications of advanced colon cancer at the age of 42. What's shocking is that he was diagnosed 4 years ago and spent the past 4 years filming Black Panther and Avengers, etc., while battling the disease. Surgery, chemotherapy, and no one knew besides his immediate circle, which someone commented on Twitter that they are a bunch of real ones because the media didn't get a whiff out of this. Not even the director of Black Panther knew. The reaction was heartbreaking, heartwarming, depressing sometimes. Like, this man inspired so many Black children and adults, to be very honest, around the globe to see themselves as superheroes, which proves the point that representation matters no matter how much the haters hate, okay? And his co-stars flooded the internet with testimonials about his kindness, work ethic, and dedication, how amazing as a person he was, and how great as an actor he was. Just a fantastic person and a great loss to everybody in the film industry, Black actors, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I don't know how they will go on. But the heartbreaking part is knowing how difficult of a journey it must have been for him to complete the work while battling the disease. I have worked with colon cancer patients consistently for 7 years of my life. And it can be draining both mentally and physically, especially when chemotherapy is needed. Surgery is no walk in the park either. It can be very aggressive when diagnosed at a young age, and Chadwick was diagnosed probably in his later 30s, if the math is right. So my heart really goes out to his family and friends. But his passing also started another conversation about how people with disability, and yes, cancer is a disability, are treated in the workplace, and how their concerns are dismissed, how they are commonly forced to hide their disabilities so they won't lose employment, and how companies, universities, etc. refuse to make accessibility a priority. It was shocking because after the COVID-19 pandemic, a lot of places were actually able to afford working remotely, online meetings, etc., which could have been done for disabled people for years, but nobody wanted to comply or cooperate. Also, using ill or disabled people who had to continue to work really hard through their challenges as tokens for the toxic positivity and inspiration porn movements. For example, someone tweeting, "If Chadwick could film all his movies while battling cancer, what's your excuse?" Chronically ill and disabled people have expressed their disdain for being used as inspiration porn and to shame other people into overachieving and adulting. And it's usually done against their consent. Hardly any of them that I know of, at least, would appreciate being used to shame people. Clearly, I'm not the most qualified person to speak on this. So I encourage you all to check out the accounts of disabled bloggers who speak about this matter. And the one who comes to mind is Crutches and Spice. I will leave her account link in the description box. So you can read what she has been saying about this for a while, about the lack of cooperation from different establishments to afford accessibility for disabled people, and how not to use disabled people for inspiration porn. She has a great account. The final point that I want to bring out in regards to Chadwick Boseman's passing was brought to Twitter, was the culture of mocking people for their looks. So a lot of people remember how months ago Chadwick had an appearance on social media. I think he was on Instagram, and he looked quite unwell. He lost a lot of weight. He looked tired, not his great self. And some people expressed concerns for his health, but the loudest voices, as usual, which are the negative voices, were mocking him and accusing him of falling into drug addiction. I mean, what can be more crass than saying, "Oh, it's not the Black Panther, it's the Crack Panther"? That was horrible. And after his death, it was interesting to see the same people who mocked him posting tweets about kindness and not commenting on other people's looks. I hope they learned their lessons, but I truly wouldn't be holding my breath again over this. And I know this is cold tea, but we should see what happens with Black Panther 2, which is currently in the works. And there were requests not to recast the role of King T'Challa and let Chadwick's memory live on forever as the first Black Panther on film. And I really can't make a decision on this. I can't make my mind. I am an MCU fan, and I would love to see how Ryan Coogler and the production team work around this sudden change. There are so many possibilities. There are options for other people to play the role of the Black Panther that don't have to be King T'Challa. And Wakanda is forever, after all. Another interesting topic that I came across recently is Star Wars. And for years I've been planning to watch the franchise because the first one I watched was in 1999, the first installment of the prequel trilogy, which came like around 20 years after the first trilogy. And it's called Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. I watched it in the movies. I enjoyed it very, very much. However, I couldn't emotionally bond with it to actually pursue watching the rest of the series. Just like I bonded with The Lord of the Rings, for example. So Star Wars fans out there, please don't hate me. I'm still interested and I'm still going to watch it. And I have very good friends who are mega fans. But the fandom seems to be quite interesting. For example, I found tweets about and from John Boyega, who played Finn, the young black stormtrooper in the latest installment, which was produced by Disney, and how Disney misled the fandom during the promotional material for the films, insinuating that he would become a Jedi, and how the fandom, which apparently suffers from a racism infestation, treated him very, very poorly. They also treated another actress from an Asian descent very poorly and actually forced her to leave social media, which is horrific. And I really don't know what's the deal with these geek fandoms. Misogyny, racism, it's quite loud and off-putting, to be honest. This is not me saying that all fans are misogynistic or racist. On the contrary, there are many wonderful people, but nerds can be vicious, man. Nerds, geeks, whatever, doesn't matter. Anyway, Star Wars fans, comic fans, video game fans, all suffer from the same problems. The negative ones can be very, very loud and overpower the nice, understanding, or good ones. They also attack people who speak out against what they're doing, accuse them of virtue signaling. They have the slogan, go woke or go broke sometimes. If you suggest that a company would produce something more inclusive or feminist, it's weird, okay? They need to calm down. I really hope that future generations of fans would do better and have less toxic experiences. Okay, what's the next order of business? After conducting a Twitter poll, and I always mispronounce this word because every time I dictate it on my iPhone, it is spelled Pole. So clearly I'm doing something wrong. I just don't know what it is. Anyway, so I conducted a poll and gave my friends 3 options to choose which should I talk about today. And the options were podcasting struggles, which are clearly happening live right now, or talking about my life, or talking about my Twitter friends, or all of the above. Which was pretty sneaky of me, I have to admit, because I'm yet to find a topic that I can talk about for more than 10 minutes. So anyway, the majority went for all of the above, and let's just do that. Let me give you the backstory of my life. I grew up in the Middle East. I'm still stuck here. My parents are from Sudan. You'll have to Google that if you don't know where it is. And sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. But they moved out of it when I was 18 months old and went to Saudi Arabia because, of course, they were looking for better working opportunities. And we lived actually in the southern part of Saudi Arabia, which I must say had fantastic weather. And we lived there until I was 8.5 or 9. That year would be the good year of the Lord, 1990. So yes, I'm hella old. We moved to the country we live in right now as my father, and don't worry, I'm not going to repeat the Meghan McCain joke again, found a better work opportunity. So, side story here, Dad had to travel a few months ahead of us while my mom stayed behind with my 9-year-old self, my 2 younger brothers, and she was pregnant with my sister, who you all know and love as my co-host in the previous episode. She then had to pack up the entire house, the 3 kids, and haul everything to the new country on her own, which explains why she freaks out every time we had to move afterwards. Clearly, she has some sort of PTSD out of it. Anyway, I finished high school in 1999. I went away for a couple of years to attend medical school. And here I have to explain that the system in the Middle East is different than the American system, where in the States, and probably in Canada too, you would have to obtain a Bachelor of Science degree for probably 4 years, and then go to med school for 4 years before graduating as a doctor. While here, you just have to attend medical school after finishing high school directly. And some schools would give you a 5-year course. Some others, which are more conventional, give you a 6-year course. I was in a rush, so I chose a college that gave me a 5-year course. and I graduated in 2003, a few months before my 22nd birthday. I came back here because they had great working opportunities again. I still live here, where I got married, and I am currently raising my daughter here. My husband has been locked in another country since February thanks to the pandemic, but I hope he comes back soon after the travel restrictions ease up a bit. I'm a total nerd. I love comic books and all related content, but especially the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I'm a huge fan. I hoard books, I hoard stationery, I have quite the fountain pen collection, and I legit can tell you which pens to use for which purposes and which ink is suitable for which pen. And I can also tell you that the paper you're writing on right now is not the best quality. I'm a paper snob. I dabble in watercolor sometimes. I journal extensively. My friends Melody and Angelo know how bad it is. Angelo acts shocked every time, but Melody can't stop encouraging the insanity. I love you both, by the way. I use a paper planner in the bullet journal format because if I rely on my phone or my memory, nothing will get done. So yeah, this is me behind the scenes. Anyway, after I went to medical school, I trained as a surgeon, which is a 5-year training course, then had another 5-year training course specifically in colorectal surgery. And this is why I said I worked with colon cancer patients extensively for 7 years. I love my job, and it was a great source of satisfaction for several years. It also pays quite well, and there is a niche for female surgeons in the Middle East. Professionally, I can't complain at all. However, it's exhausting, both physically and mentally, and the older I get, the less tolerant of dealing with humans I've become. So the natural progression for someone in my situation is to transition to teaching full-time, which is something I've been dabbling in for the past couple of months. I might actually do it eventually full-time. And I've also decided that I would like to pursue some work in creative media, starting a podcast like what's happening right now, writing, and I immensely enjoyed my blog that I started in 2013. But it was only for my friends' eyes. Not much happened because of it or from it, and I stopped writing in 2014. I talked about it in the first episode if you'd like to listen to it. Now I plan to start another blog soon, and I have been doing a lot of research for it. Frankly, I am very, very excited about it, and I hope to post the first blog before the end of the year. Twitter, for being the horrible place that it can be, introduced me to some really, really good people who have graciously offered me very interesting opportunities. I hope all of them will come to fruition eventually. This actually is a good segue for me to talk about the Twitter friends I have met recently. I joined Twitter for the first time in 2011. I just got out of Facebook because it became too exhausting and time-consuming, and frankly, it's a dumpster fire. And I had a Facebook friend who started hanging out on Twitter, and he thought it was a better place to hang out, and he sent me an invite. Since both of us are Arabic speakers, we got involved in Arabic Twitter, which was booming at the time because of the Arab Spring. So imagine getting a chance to speak about thoughts that you wouldn't commonly talk about in real life or in normal life. Politics, feminism, and LGBTQ plus issues, and my opinions on religion that were changing at the time. I cannot talk about stuff like this with my colleagues at work or my family members. And over the years, because I became more liberal in my views, I was actually cast away by a few friends I met in college. Because in a community where racism and anti-LGBTQ plus sentiments are normal, being the openly gay-friendly person is absolutely unacceptable to many people. So social media was eventually a great outlet for me, the lazy, extroverted introvert, to talk to people for hours and hours and have lengthy discussions about whatever topic I wanted to in my house robe. Anyway, I came back to Twitter in 2017 or 18 because I got really invested in the beauty community drama. And what we see on Twitter, what we see on YouTube is only a part of the fun because most of what happens was on Twitter. So I created the first Real Nubian account and eventually got locked out of it because a bunch of MRAs reported my account. And I forgot how to get back to it. So I started a new one because I'm lazy. Thankfully, all my friends from the old account came back and followed me. And here we are right now with the Real Nubian too. And I have met people. It started as beauty community drama, but then I found myself in feminist Twitter, pro-choice Twitter, anti-MRA Twitter, anti-insult Twitter. And these groups intermingle quite a bit. So I have a bunch of good supportive friends right now, and they know that if we get to meet one day, I would really be happy to do so. But we continue bonding online, and I love that. Some of them are pretty close at the moment, and I hope they stay like that forever. So yeah, a bunch of good people, wonderful people. I promise some of them drinks if we meet one day. Anyway. So I hope that was interesting enough to encourage you guys to come back and listen to me ramble another time. Thank you so much. Take care of yourselves and others. Continue wearing masks and washing your hands and social distancing because the pandemic is not over. And I love you all. I'm out of here.